The main flashpoint between Iran and the U.S.-Israel war is Tehran's nuclear stockpile. So far, attacks by Israel and the U.S. are limited to sea and air, but fear of a ground invasion looms large. The United States and Israel are now mulling a special covert operation deep inside Iran. The U.S. and Israel have discussed sending special forces into Iran to secure its stockpile of highly enriched uranium at a later stage of the war, Axios reported, citing 4 sources with knowledge of the discussions. This is one of many options likely to be considered. One U.S. official claimed that there were 2 options presented: extracting the uranium from Iran, and then it would be a decision for Trump, the War Department, and the CIA whether they want to physically transport it or dilute it on premises. But where is the uranium? Reports say Iran's key nuclear site in Isfahan, a web of deep underground tunnels in the mountains containing enough uranium for up to 10 atomic bombs, has been largely left alone. The mission would likely involve special operators alongside scientists, possibly from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. Officials also told Axios that another decision being considered is whether to seize Karg Island, which is responsible for the majority of Iran's crude oil exports.
Are there circumstances where you'd send in ground troops? How are you thinking about that?
I don't even want to talk about it now. I mean, it's... I don't think it's an appropriate question. I'm not going to answer it. Could there be? Possibly, for very good reason. Have to be very good reason. And I would say if we ever did that, they would be so decimated that they wouldn't be able to fight at the ground level.
Are you thinking about the oil facility there? There's an oil facility kind of on the coast of Iran that could be secured by ground troops. There's been some speculation that could be a target.
Well, I don't know what the speculation is, but I certainly would be able to tell you that. I'd be in trouble with myself if I told you that.
Don't you need ground troops to secure the enriched uranium at the nuclear sites?
We'll find out about that. We haven't talked about it, but it was a total obliteration. They haven't been able to get to it. Then at some point, maybe we will. That would be a great thing. But right now, we're just decimating them. But we haven't gone after it. But something we could do later on. We wouldn't do it now. Maybe we'd do it later.
You said you want to be involved in the selection of the next leader of Iran. Can you talk to me?
Well, because I don't want to just come back every 10 years. And mostly you'll have presidents, that won't do that because they don't get it. But we don't want to come back every 5 years or every 10 years and do this. So we want to pick a president that's not going to be leading their country into a war.
Last June, Trump declared that Iran's nuclear facilities were obliterated. One of the main objectives of Trump's war with Iran this time is to prevent Tehran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Axios reported that the Islamic Republic has 450 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, which is convertible to weapons grade within weeks. This is enough to make 11 nuclear bombs in a few weeks. According to unnamed Israeli and U.S. officials, Trump weighed sending special operations units into Iran as one of several options to prevent the country from further enriching its uranium into weapons-grade material. If the U.S. were to begin boots-on-the-ground operations, it would consist of small special operations raids, not a large force, officials said. Meanwhile, Iran's president Masoud Pezeshkian has threatened to step up attacks on American targets throughout the Middle East as the U.S. and Israel press ahead with their air campaign.
The discussions we had yesterday, it seems, led to some rather naive interpretations by the enemy. The enemy desires us to be at war with Islamic nations to create division and disagreement between us and other countries. We have stated this repeatedly, time and again, and our true intention and this has also been the Supreme Leader's goal. We are brothers with our neighbors. Our relations must be good. But what's happening is, if any country tries to attack and invade our soil, naturally we'll be forced to respond. And this response we intend to give them, it does not mean that we are in conflict with that nation. It does not mean that, God forbid, we wish to upset the people of that place. We are compelled to respond to them because they have launched an attack against us. and the greater the pressure they exert upon us, our capacity to retaliate will naturally be stronger. We have stood strong against anyone who dares to attack our nation, and we will respond with unwavering power. And our nation, our people, and most certainly our armed forces, along with all the Basij forces who are present in every corner of this country, will defend our homeland with their entire being. And the dreams they have envisioned, we will undoubtedly shatter them. The perception that we have apologized, we are upset for the dear people who believe this conflict in the region has caused them concern, and we are sorry that they are worried. But those who attacked us from their soil, we will naturally respond, and we will respond with power. These two are separate. We are friends with the countries of the region. They are our brothers. I said yesterday too that we must try join hands and not allow Israel and America, through deception and trickery, to cause the countries of the region to stand against each other.
U.S. strategic bombers capable of carrying 24 cruise missiles has reportedly arrived in the UK after days of diplomatic friction between London and Washington for not allowing American forces to use British bases in operations against. Reports said the aircraft, B-1 Lancer, fastest bomber in the U.S. Air Force inventory, started arriving in RAF Base Fairford in Gloucestershire from Friday evening local time, marking Britain's formal entry into the U.S. campaign in the Middle East. The landing followed Prime Minister Keir Starmer granting the United States permission to use both RAF Fairford and the base at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean for what Downing Street described as defensive strikes against Iranian missile sites. Additionally, HMS Prince of Wales, the most advanced British aircraft carrier, is also put on notice to be ready to get deployed within 5 days in the Middle East if the government decides to bolster its naval presence in the region. Keir had initially withheld permission for the U.S. to use British bases, a decision that drew a pointed public rebuke from President Donald Trump, who told journalists in the Oval Office he was not happy with the UK and that U.S. aircraft had been flying many extra hours as a result.
Well, I completely reject that criticism. If we just look at the facts, so for several weeks now we've been bolstering our presence and the forces in the Middle East, particularly at Cyprus, and doing that in consultation with our regional partners. We've added additional Typhoons, F-35, over 400 people to help protect and defend the airspace around Cyprus. And even as late as Wednesday, Thursday, before the war started, Donald Trump was talking about a peaceful resolution. When the war started on Saturday, it became clear over the next 48 hours that Iran's response was going to be very much broader, wild and indiscriminate and rather reckless compared to what we saw in the 12-day war last summer. And so we also saw Iran, probably what we assess to be a drone launched from Lebanon by an Iranian aligned Shia militia group at Cyprus. And so on Sunday and Monday, we assessed our options and looked at what those risks were in response to that much broader action and reckless action by Iran.
The arrival of the bomber came on the 8th day of the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran, and hours after U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stated that strikes on Iran were about to surge dramatically. But despite granting use of the bases, Keir has refused to join in strikes, telling members of parliament that the government does not believe in regime change from the skies. While the UK has allowed U.S. forces to operate from the joint bases, another NATO ally, Spain, has taken a different stance, dividing NATO